So in part one of this video, I talked a little bit about the different types of ways businesses are started: sole proprietor, LLC, corporation, LP, and a little bit about some of the differences, but I didn't really get into what is the need for using like an LLC or an LP. When would you use either of those? So a lot of that depends on what you're doing, what the specifics are of the business. So for example, if you're starting a tech company and the plan is in 3 years, you're raising a ton of money, millions of dollars, and you're going to go public, probably best to start it out as a Delaware C corporation based on the projected path. A lot of smaller businesses, real estate deals, holding companies, might be best to do an LLC. If you're doing an investment fund, might be an LP. But let me go over a little bit of the basics. So let's see here. This was what I had covered before, sole proprietor corporation and some of the differences between them. So you have the LLC, corporation, limited partnership, and this was a comparison chart. If you go back to part one of this video, I go over this in a little bit more detail, but a corporation, some of the main differences are taxes and then the number of members involved. So when it comes down to, okay, do I want to start a LLC or a limited partnership? What are the main differences? Well, an LP generally can only be taxed as a partnership, and you have to have both a limited partner and a general partner, meaning you cannot start your own single member limited partnership. You can't just have one person. There has to be at least two people or entities involved. An LLC can be started with one person. So if you're doing a holding company, it's going to hold a bunch of assets underneath, and you're the only person, you kind of have to either use a corporation or an LLC because you only have one owner. And then also taxation. An LLC is flexible. LLC can be taxed however you want. If there's one person, it's treated like a disregarded entity or like a sole proprietorship, but it also has the liability protection of an LLC. If there's two or more members in an LLC, you can elect to be a partnership, taxed like a partnership, like an LP, limited partnership. You can also make an election to be taxed as a corporation. And some people talk about, oh, okay, the LLC decided to be taxed as an S Corp, which people say, how can you do that? You can actually elect an LLC to be taxed however you want, pretty much. You can be taxed as an S Corp, you can be taxed as a C Corp, even as an LLC. So the benefit of LLCs is they're so flexible. You only have to have one owner. You can tax them however you want, and it has the same liability protection as a limited partnership. Limited partnerships have been around for a lot longer, so people are more familiar with them, especially when it comes to funds, like a hedge fund or any real estate or investment fund. Generally, you're going to see something or other LP, limited partnership, in Delaware. That's the traditional model. Now, most of the time that's fine because it gives you the same benefits if you already have two or more owners and you don't care, you want to be taxed as a partnership anyways. So going with an LP is fine. Depending on your exit as well, depending if you're going to be an LLC taxed as an S corporation or a C corporation or a single member, and you're going to get sold at some point, all these things can potentially have an impact. So there's really no right answer. But I'm going to show you a little bit about, let me switch to another screen to show you org charts that would be created in different scenarios. So in a real estate syndication, for example, you have the property that's being purchased up here in yellow. The issuer or the company, basically in a syndication, you're raising capital, so it's considered an issuer. But people wonder, okay, should this be an LP or an LLC? Some people have heard, hey, my accountant or somebody said this should always be an LP, and my attorney maybe said an LLC. The only real difference is based on state law. So if you're doing, for example, an LLC in California with a single member is not a good idea. Single member LLCs in California are not treated well if they're even respected as an LLC. You can do a limited partnership in California, and that's a little bit better. If you form in Texas, you can do a limited partnership or limited liability company. Same thing as Delaware. And the laws treat them pretty similarly, other than the fact that you need more than one owner for a limited partnership, and taxation of a limited partnership is generally only partnership taxation. LLC can have one or more members or owners, and it can be taxed however they want, however they choose. So generally an LLC is going to be more flexible. So whether it's a syndication, this is a more complex, but in an investment fund, you can do a limited partnership or a limited liability company. This is set up as an LP. You have a general partner, which is another LLC to provide liability protection down here. And then the owners or people who created are the sponsors, and the investors are the limited partners. So that's the traditional structure for an investment fund. A syndication or any other type of investment pool where you use an LLC is almost the exact same thing. And that's what I was showing down here. The LLC is the same thing. The MGR, the manager of the LLC, is kind of like the GP, the general partner. And it's usually set up as a separate LLC for more liability protection. And then the investors are members of the LLC. They're not technically considered LPs, but it's almost the exact same structure. Most of the same benefits for liability protection, and you can choose whatever taxation you want. So generally you're going to choose partnership taxation anyways, because in this type of deal, they want flow through of tax allocations for profit and loss. If you're setting up for example, if it's a sole, or if there's one or two members that are owning it, let's say two people are owning a services business and they have no plans to raise money or grow, really, it's just a small business, they might want to do an LLC and elects to be taxed as an S corporation, or just form an S corporation from the beginning. Because the S corporation, you might be able to avoid self-employment taxes or have other benefits tax-wise versus being taxed as a partnership. And you still have liability protection with an LLC or an S corp, either way. So that's a little bit. I mean, I have some more detailed fund structures where it gets a lot more complicated, and same thing on the real estate side with preferred equity partners and all this, where you can mix in LPs and LLCs. But generally, for the most part, use an LLC or an LP. Using an LLC is usually my recommendation because of how flexible it is. You can have only one member, same liability protection. It's really a very useful legal structure, but it's only been around for 20 to 30 years, approximately, depending on state law. And LPs have been around for 150 or however many years that they've been around. So people are more familiar with hearing about limited partnership LPs, but LLCs are usually more preferred by most attorneys who understand the difference. So that's just a little bit more detail on LLCs and LPs. Again, with the understanding that it really depends on exactly what the business is doing and what the exit plan is, what the assets or holds are, to determine what is the best structure for you and the tax consequences. So talk with a qualified attorney and a CPA before you make any decisions. Make sure you set it up right from the beginning. And thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Securities Law Media. I try to put out as much educational free content as I can. Thanks for watching.